I put out a poll last Thursday asking everyone what topic they wanted to hear me talk about next, and the majority voted for the Billie Eilish situation, so here we go. Sorry, Nayla. Disclaimer, I am not a part of the LGBTQ2S+ community, so I recognize that no matter how sound my logic and reasoning is, I can never fully grasp the phenomenological experience of being part of that community. So even though I'm giving you my honest opinions and thoughts on everything going around Billie Eilish right now, anyone who is queer and feels as though I am missing something from this situation is 100% encouraged to leave their comments below. We're here to have a two-way conversation. I'm here to learn too. I think most people are aware of what's going on, so you can skip ahead if you'd like, but for those who want some background information, Billie Eilish released a new music video for her song Lost Cause. It caused quite a stir because Billie appeared to be interacting in a flirty and sexual manner with other women in her video. And as an artist who's always been quite popular among the queer community, lots of her fans started to wonder if this meant that Billie was coming out as queer. Now, perhaps the situation would have died down if that was the end of it. Except later, she posted on her Instagram pictures of behind the scenes from her music video with the caption, "I love girls." I think you can guess how some people interpreted this post, especially since it's Pride Month right now. Lots of people were freaking out, like, oh my gosh, this is Billie's way of coming out. And some people even said that if she didn't come out after this, then it would be queerbaiting. And she didn't come out. At least not publicly. The next day, she was seen with her boyfriend, Matthew Taylor Vorce, at Disneyland on a date, and the queer community felt pretty betrayed. Now, about her boyfriend specifically, fans dug up a lot of his old posts on social media where he said racist, homophobic, fatphobic things, and this only made people more angry. 3 videos surrounding Billie started to spread as well. One where she supposedly says chink. One where she is supposedly using a black accent.
I love my dad and he's 61.
Phineas comes in and all I hear is which is like the theme song at the beginning of all David Dobrik videos. This shit is funny as fuck.
And then one where she is apparently mocking Asian accents. This made people particularly upset because Billie has presented herself as an ally to a lot of social causes. So now it's got a lot of people wondering whether it's just performative or it's actually genuine. To this date, Billie has not said anything about any of these topics except for liking this Instagram post. Okay, so 3 topics today then. Queerbaiting, Billie's boyfriend, and Billie's own racism accusations. Let's begin with queerbaiting. I'm sure many of you are dying to know what side I stand on, even though I always like to remind people that I don't believe in this whole black and white, one side versus other side narrative that exists so much of the time. With that being said, I do believe Billie Eilish was queerbaiting, but it's a very thin line to cross. Let me explain what I mean by that. I watched Zaharia Smith's video on this topic, and in it, she talks about how she doesn't think Billie is queerbaiting, but rather it's Billie playing into the male fetish of women on women, which she admits may just be a roundabout way of saying queerbaiting, but I do think that there is a difference between the two. It's one that can be hard to pick out, but it definitely exists. I'm going to reference a famous work of literature in this video called Ways of Seeing by John Berger. He's really one of the writers that laid the foundation for the male gaze theory. In Ways of Seeing, Berger talks about how if we look at nude oil paintings throughout Europe's history, we'll notice that the nude figure, which was often a woman, was always depicted in a conventionally sexual pose in order to generalize her as a generic object of sexual desire and turn the audience into a general observer, which at that time meant a white heterosexual male. For instance, in Bronzino's painting Venus, Cupid, and Time, the nude woman is deliberately posed in a conventional manner, with her neck area wide open, her back arched, eyelids hooded, and her lips in a suggestive smirk. Although Cupid here appears to be sexually engaging with the woman, she is clearly not painted for him. Her body is positioned quite awkwardly for Cupid. I mean, who actually kisses someone like that? If she was truly focused on Cupid, then her body would be positioned to face him. But she's not. The fact that she's facing front towards the audience is to best serve the audience, i.e. the heterosexual male. Berger contrasts paintings like Venus, Cupid, and Time with other paintings like this. This is Rubens' Hélène Formant in a fur suit. She is not painted in a conventionally sexual manner. She's painted with a sense of ordinariness. You can see the lines on her body, the bulge of her stomach, her disheveled hair, and the hunch in her shoulders. She is not just some general woman that's supposed to represent beauty and desire. She is presented as the personal vision of a particular individual. We are seeing Hélène Formant through the eyes of a specific lover. This, Berger says, is true intimacy. When we see this, we feel as though we are watching a display put on for us. When we see this, we feel as though we are intruding on an intimate moment belonging to others and not for us. Then what do we feel when we watch Billie Eilish's Lost Cause? There's absolutely parts that I think play into the male gaze. When the women are all lying together on the bed, staring seductively into the camera, when Billie suggestively licks whipped cream off of her hand, or when she's spraying silly string all over her body but making sure to arch her back and neck so that everything is perfectly posed towards the camera. But there are other times where I think Billie is trying to sell real intimacy, as though she is actually interested in the women and not posing for a male spectator. There are parts of the video where her and other women look into each other's eyes in a sultry, intimate manner. And those are the moments where I felt she was queerbaiting, because she is no longer showing off her body for the audience or looking sexy with her gals for the camera. She seems to actually be focused on the other woman herself. And to me, those moments felt intimate. Those moments are queerbaiting. I believe this answers comments like this, which ask why other music videos like Kiss Me More, WAP, or Anaconda are not considered queerbaiting if the women in those videos are sexually touching each other and in a much more explicit way too. If you watch Kiss Me More, WAP, or Anaconda, you'll see that the women are always posed conveniently for the camera. Oftentimes, even when they're being sexual with each other, they'll be looking straight at the camera and not even at each other, or positioned in such a conventionally seductive manner that it's obvious they're playing into this straight male gaze rather than acting for the women beside them. There's no intimacy that makes us feel as though these two women actually want each other. They're just there to put on a show. I understand that there are people who say some women are just more affectionate with their female friends than others, and I completely agree. I have female friends who have platonically kissed each other on New Year's Eve because it was New Year's Eve, they didn't have any boyfriends, and they just really wanted to complete that New Year's kiss tradition. But I find it hard to believe that even the best of friends would stare into each other's eyes like this, or maybe grab their neck while looking at them like this. However, I do have to say that all of this rests under the assumption that Billie is straight. I know a lot of accusers say that Billie has mentioned multiple times that she is straight in interviews, but none of them are actually recent interviews. Also recognize that coming out when you're as big of a celebrity as Billie is a huge pressure, and it's probably really scary. Furthermore, sexuality can always change. There's people out there who have only realized that they're queer when they're already 40 and married to someone of the opposite sex. I know a lot of Billie's fan base is queer and would support her, but recognize that because she's such a big celebrity, there are so many people out there who know her name, who probably already hate her to begin with, and are not as accepting. So if she's straight, then sure, there were elements of queerbaiting. But how does accusing people of queerbaiting stop her and others from exploring their sexuality? I think queerbaiting should be a concept only applied to fictional characters or to solely capitalist endeavors. For example, advertisements or K-pop stars completely controlled by their company. Because that's when you can be sure there's not someone exploring their sexuality. It's just people trying to profit off of the queer community. But for Billie, she has directed Lost Cause, and she is known for having quite some agency in her actions and what she does. So it's not as easy to separate her real feelings as a person from just a marketing strategy. Okay, time to move on to our next topic, Matthew Tyler Vorce. So fans did some stalking of Matthew and found a bunch of old posts that were pretty horrible. Making homophobic comments, writing the N-word, saying he thinks about what a pretty girl's head would look like on a stick. Sir, this isn't Lord of the Flies. The posts are awful. That is true. But is it a fair judgment of the person he is today? I don't think so. Look at the dates of these posts. Most of them were posts nearly a decade ago. The newest ones were from at least 5 years ago. And I don't believe that these types of mindsets are just somehow ingrained into one's brain and is never able to be changed. In fact, I think it's dangerous to accuse people of never being able to change. If you believe someone who is racist, homophobic, and fatphobic has no chance of ever changing, what's the point of trying to educate them? What's the point of lobbying for social progress if you believe that there's no chance of it ever happening? My thoughts on a lot of social issues have drastically changed in just a year and a half. I went from being extremely left to listening to Ben Shapiro to now being in a position where I just try to think for myself. People change because times change. Note that the online world back in the early 2000s was, in general, very edgy, and people considered borderline or just offensive jokes to be hilarious. And while one can say, oh, it doesn't matter, they should have just known better, think about how many beliefs and values you hold or things that you find funny simply because it's how the majority acts. Tons of people thought mask wearing was weird and unnatural just a year ago because Western scientists were saying that there was no scientific proof of masks ever being helpful. Slowly, more people started to adopt the mask wearing practice, and now most people find it to be a natural part of going outside. Nobody used to do it, and so nobody wanted to be a part of the weird, unnatural squad. But as more people started to do it, then more people started to follow and become comfortable with it. We are a follow-the-crowd species. Humans are really good imitators, whether it's for the good or for the bad sometimes. Yes, there was that Donald Trump post from back in 2017, but he said that it was meant to be sarcastic. And come on, don't tell me you've never seen sarcastic posts of people pretending to support Trump. I have friends who hate Trump, and they've joked about being pro-Trump, and it's hilarious because everyone knows that they're lying out of their ass. Matthew has apologized for all the posts that he has made, but a lot of people are not accepting his apology, either because they say apologizing doesn't fix anything, or that he's only apologizing because of the backlash. But I find that this type of thinking is just going to paint him as the bad guy regardless of what he does. If he doesn't address the issue, then he must still be racist, homophobic, fatphobic, transphobic, etc. But if he does apologize, then he's only doing it because he has to and it's not genuine. You know, there's also the possibility that he's just never apologized for these posts before because he doesn't specifically remember making them. I mean, do you remember what you tweeted 8 years ago on December 15th? Probably not. These posts are undeniably harmful and discriminatory, but we can condemn the posts and his past self without irrationally lumping his present self in there. Now, perhaps Matthew Tyler Vorce hasn't changed and he still is saying racist, homophobic, and fatphobic things. That is a possibility that I cannot outrule. But are these old Facebook posts sufficient evidence to prove it? No. Okay, now let's discuss Billie's own racism accusations. She's been accused of saying chink, of using blaccent, and mocking an Asian accent, and apparently there are tweets of her where she says the N-word and the F-word. Let's work through these one by one. The chink video. I think the accusations are silly. It honestly sounds like she's saying chi, and the video is cut so fast and short that I literally have no idea what she was actually talking about, or what she said before or after. I'm not even sure if she finished the word that she was saying. Was she saying, I like chicken? Was she saying the word children? It's unclear. Using a blaccent. To be honest, I'm not going to talk about this one much because I don't think I'm qualified to speak on this issue. There are comments of black people saying that it's actually not Billie's fault, but rather white people who are confusing ghetto and hood with blaccent, because obviously not all black people speak like that. And other black people are just straight up saying that she doesn't sound black. So I'll leave this topic to the black community who definitely knows better than I do. Mocking an Asian accent. Again, I think this is just poor evidence because it is an extremely short little clip with zero context. Do you see the trend here? I mean, is she just speaking gibberish? Was she just fooling around? Like, I'll never know. The N-word and F-word. For some reason, these tweets say that they were posted back in 2007, even though Billie would have been, I think, 6 years old back then. And her Twitter account says she joined in 2013, so I'm not sure how authentic these Twitter screenshots are. Even if they are real, it was 13 years ago when she was 6 years old. I highly doubt any 19-year-old believes the same things and says the same things that they did when they were 6. I'll say the same thing that I said about Matthew. Maybe Billie Eilish is racist, but this evidence that people have pulled up is not proving it. Thank you so much if you've made it to the end of the video. I had lots of fun incorporating John Berger into my queerbaiting versus the male gaze section of the video. And my next topic that I'll talk about will be probably my issues with the romanticize your life notion. As always, you are more than welcome to share your thoughts down below in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Let's keep talking, and I hope to hear from you soon. Bye!